Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Candidates Town Hall. The Rossmoor Homeowners Association is proud to be able to offer this event every 2 years as part of our service to our members and the community as a whole. And if anyone remembers, 2 years ago to this day was when we had our last candidates forum. It was on September 29th. So there's something magical about that date. I'm Marian Last, First Vice President of the Rossmoor Homeowners Association. I will be your hostess along with our moderators, Gary Stewart and Jody Roubanis. And Facey will be our timer for this evening, and he will be holding up 2 color-coded folders, one being 30 seconds and the other being 10 seconds. Sort of elementary, but we didn't use crayons, but we hope that works, okay? This evening is being brought to you live via Zoom and can be accessed after this evening through the RHA website at rrossmoor.com. We'd like to begin the evening with a salute to our nation. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To help us expedite the evening's candidates, to expedite this evening, candidates were given a set of general questions to answer prior to the town hall meeting. Responses can be found on our Rossmoor's website to help local residents meet the candidates. Tonight's event is being zoomed and streamed to our Rossmoor YouTube channel. The recording will be replayed on Los Alamitos TV3, the YouTube channel, and the our Rossmoor website on the candidates page. Replays of the event can be found on social media via Facebook, Instagram, YouTube until the election. The format for tonight's event will be a question and answer with no debate. Public questions for this evening were obtained from community residents via the rrossmoor.com website. Due to time restrictions, there'll be no questions taken from the live or viewing audience. Each office has its own segment. Tonight you will hear from candidates running for Congressional District 45, State Senate District 36, Assembly District 72, the Los Alamitos Unified School District Trustee candidates for Area 3, and the Rossmoor Community Services District Board candidates. So at this time, I will turn over our platform to our 2 moderators, if you will, please, and they will talk about the time limit and for each of the questions. And thank you, Jody and Gary, for taking over this event.
Thank you, Miriam. And September 29th is a special day. It's my husband's birthday. And so, well, we're celebrating tomorrow. So each candidate tonight will have the opportunity to introduce him or herself. The time limit for introductions is 2 minutes. We will then ask questions. Each question, you'll have 2 minutes to respond to that, up to 2 minutes to respond to that question. Frank will be holding up the signs to let you know when your time is coming to an end, and then you will have 2 minutes to close. Candidate Chen, could you please provide us an introduction up to 2 minutes?
Thank you so much. Is this on? Yes. Well, thank you to the Rossmoor Homeowners Association for having this forum, and thank you to everyone who is attending here and online. My name is Chen. I'm a lieutenant commander in the Navy Reserves, a community college trustee, and a former school board member, and the father to 2 little boys, 6 years old and 8 years old. And I'm running for Congress in California's 45th Congressional District. I actually know the surrounding community pretty well. I was a drilling reservist at Los Alamitos Joint Forces Training Base for 8 years, and this is a wonderful community, and I'm really glad to be here. but I also need that you need good representation in Congress. I'm running for Congress because DC is broken, and we have far too many career politicians who are more interested in serving their special interests and their donors than serving the people who elected them. And one of the things I valued most about my service in the military is the fact that we don't discuss politics or party. We work together to accomplish the mission, and we need more of that in Washington, D.C. right now. And I was deployed to the Middle East in 2020 for Operation Inherent Resolve, the campaign to defeat ISIS, and I watched as the pandemic broke out, not just in the Middle East, but in the United States, and I watched how badly that was mishandled. And then, upon my return home, I saw the insurrection, the attempt to undo the will of the people in Washington, D.C. I did not serve abroad to serve my nation, to come home to that kind of chaos, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running. I want to address several issues. Chief among them is inflation and getting our economy back on track, making sure that we enact sensible gun violence legislation, since I'm the father of 2 little boys, and the fact that we have active shooter drills completely appalls me, and also want to make sure that women continue to have the right to make their own health care decisions. Those are some of my priorities, and I look forward to meeting all of you and answering your questions. Thank you so much.
Good evening, candidate Chen. I'm Gary Stweart from the RHA Board of Directors, and I'm going to be asking you your first question this evening. This year, there was a major nationwide redistricting effort aimed at serving our underrepresented populations and ethnicities. In fact, many of our existing district lines were shifted, and we now have both different boundaries and different representation. Would you speak to the issues of diversity and inclusion and give an example of how you plan to represent the many different needs and interests in our community?
Thank you for that question, and you're absolutely right. This is a brand new district. The Redistricting Commission, every 10 years, they redraw the lines. And a district like this has never existed before. This district is comprised of 5 previous congressional districts, and it stretches from Little Saigon and Rossmoor, Los Alamitos in the south, all the way up to Brea in the north. And this is actually a Asian plurality seat, or an Asian influence seat. The district is 37% Asian, 20% Latino. It's one of the most diverse districts in the country. And it's important that we have representatives who appreciate that diversity and can reach out in language. Puedo hablar español y también yo puedo hablar chino. 我会说中文，我也会说西班牙语。我觉得这会讲不同的语言是非常非常的重要。We need representatives who will embrace diversity and recognize that it is part of our strength. And as a part of that, even though I'm running for Congress right now, my campaign has been conducting citizenship workshops for the surrounding community. Anyone who wants to learn how to pass the citizenship test and become an American, they can come to our campaign office, and we're willing to spend the time and resources to teach them. So I definitely plan on continuing to be an advocate for the diverse communities in this district, regardless of where they come from, and I'll always be a voice for the underrepresented. Thank you.
Next question. Homelessness is a complicated issue and has become systematic in our society, affecting the mental health of those impacted. The social and cognitive ability of people without stable housing is exacerbated. What will you do to improve the availability of sustainable housing and ancillary services to minimize homelessness?
So homelessness is an issue that all cities and counties in California are currently grappling with. And the price of homes has simply skyrocketed to a point where it's become impossible for a young family to find a starter home. You know, starter homes are rapidly disappearing. There are a couple of reasons behind this. New homes are difficult to build because of the supply chain crisis. We have not completely recovered from the pandemic in terms of making our supply chains the way they were before the pandemic, so home building has become much more expensive. But we also have this phenomena of iBuyers, you know, internet companies like Zillow or Redfin or other companies that are gobbling up a lot of inventory, and also private equity companies that are now deriving much of their profits from buying single-family homes and turning them into rentals. So the housing market has changed quite a bit because of the entrance of these much larger players. And as a federal representative, I want to make sure that we're keeping a close eye on this, because we know that when large companies make big bets and those bets go sour, usually it's the public that is left holding the bag with bailouts. We need to make sure that what's happening right now will not disrupt our economic system down the line. And also, I think that there are ways in which the federal government can alleviate the housing shortage by perhaps leasing, lands, federal lands that are not being used, even within cities and counties. The federal government has lands that could be put to use for housing, and also encouraging local governments through incentives to provide more streamlined ways for people to build homes for those who need them.
Candidate Chen, our next question is about taxes. Many taxes in California on such things as gasoline, income, sales are amongst the highest in the nation. Yet at the end of 2017, a tax act was passed by Congress that limited the deductibility of state and local taxes, also known as SALT, to California residents. What is your position on the limitation that's imposed by that law?
So the SALT cap was part of a larger tax package in 2017 that was really designed to benefit the wealthiest, those who are in least need of that kind of tax relief. And in addition to those tax cuts for billionaires, there was a SALT cap that was designed to basically punish those who lived in the coastal states, in New York and in California, folks who actually pay pretty high state taxes already. And in Orange County, the median price of a home is now over $1 million. So when you have a SALT deduction cap of $10,000, your property tax already exceeds that. So this was a punitive measure, and I fully support raising or eliminating that SALT cap, bringing back to where it was, and I'm disappointed that my opponent, despite having an opportunity to address that issue, has not done that. I think that is one of the most punitive measures that have been enacted, and it's something that I fully stand behind in terms of either repealing or raising.
Fourth question and final question. Do you believe the government has a right to dictate or to limit a woman's health care choices, including childbirth?
I am horrified that little girls today have fewer rights than what their grandmothers grew up with. And the repeal of Roe v. Wade was an absolute mistake, and I am beyond disappointed that Michelle Steele signed the amicus brief to overturn Roe v. Wade, and later on co-sponsored a bill called Life at Conception Act, which would make abortion illegal. It would create a federal ban on abortion without any exceptions. And I wish that she was here to actually explain her vote, her decision to back that bill. The right for a woman to make her own health care decisions should be absolute. And we need to get government out of these very, very personal decisions. And I would fully support bringing back Roe v. Wade, codifying it through federal legislation. And we have to know that here in California, even though we have state laws that may protect us, if they pass a federal ban, that will override whatever state protections we have. So when representatives claim, well, it's just a state issue, and a federal ban is just a hypothetical, it's only hypothetical until you vote on it, and then it's no longer a state issue. And my opponent has made clear her stance on a federal ban on abortion without exceptions. That's what she wants, and we need to stop that.
Candidate Chen, thank you for your answers. You now have 2 minutes to sum up your presentation and give the folks of this district reasons to vote for you.
Well, thank you again to the Rossmoor Homeowners Association for holding this event, and to everyone who has attended, and also to the candidates. I saw Kim Carr, Diedre, Nguyen. You know, it's difficult running for office. There are a lot of demands on your time, but there's nothing more important than these types of forums where the voters get an up-close and personal chance to meet you. And I think it's really telling who chose to show up and who chose to stay home, who refuses to engage with the public and hides behind scripted events and refuses to answer questions. So I hope that all voters will take into account who actually values democracy. And the fact is, In this election, democracy is on the line. We saw what happened on January 6th with those attacks, and it's important that we elect individuals who actually understand what that oath to the Constitution means. I took that oath not just as a community college board member or as a school board member, but I took an oath to defend the Constitution as an officer in the U.S. Navy Reserves. And it's not an oath to defend a political party or any individual. It's an oath to defend the Constitution. We need people who really understand that. And no matter what happens in this election, I want you to know that I'm going to be your representative. My hope is that people do not just make or cast their votes based on political party, but they'll actually take a look at what these individuals have done and what they plan to do. And we have so much that we need to address that we cannot have folks in office who are simply going to be voting no or opposing things just to make a political point. We need folks who are willing to move our community forward, and there isn't a community that's more engaged than Rossmoor. So I really want to thank everyone for being here and giving everyone an opportunity for the Rossmoor Homeowners Association, giving everyone an opportunity to hear about my candidacy and the candidacy of everyone else who respects you enough to show up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidate Chen. Candidate Carr, and hand it over to our moderators.
Why don't you go ahead?
Candidate Carr, please give us a 2-minute introduction.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. I am Kim Carr, candidate for State Senate in District 36. I am truly grateful to be here tonight in what is pretty much my second hometown. I grew up in West Garden Grove, graduated from Pacifica High School, graduated from Cal State Fullerton with a degree in American Studies and Economics, and I spent 25 years in the business world. In 2018, I saw what was happening in my community, and rather than stand by and complain, I decided to jump in and make a difference. I won my race handedly against 15 people, and I came in almost second place as a first-time candidate in a city of over 200,000 people. Some of the accomplishments that I've had on the City Council include reducing homelessness in the city of Huntington Beach by 35%, fully funding all of our pensions for our city employees, our police officers, our firefighters, and we did not raise taxes. At the end of the year, while I was mayor, we ended the year with a $10 million surplus, the first time ever in the history of Huntington Beach. And we were able to continue to do funding for public works projects like streets, our community centers, our parks, and our playgrounds. I'm running for this seat because I am focused on homelessness, crime and public safety, the cost of living in California, the environment, and Sacramento overreach. I had the opportunity to be the mayor during last year's oil spill, so I know a thing or two about the environment and how critical it is that we have people in Sacramento that are really champions for us and who are fighting for us. So I know we have a lot of questions, and I just got the time, so thank you, and I know we'll have some opportunities to dive more deeply into some of these issues.
Good evening, candidate Carr. Your first question is a repeat of a question we asked the congressional candidate. This year, there was a major nationwide redistricting effort aimed at serving our underrepresented populations and ethnicities. In fact, many of our existing district lines were shifted, and we now have both different boundaries and different representation. Would you speak to the issues of diversity and inclusion and give an example of how you plan to represent the many different needs and interests in our community?
Thank you so much for that question. Yes, this is a completely different district and probably one of the most unique in California. It encompasses 18 cities in unincorporated Orange County. So it begins in Seal Beach all the way down to San Clemente, so every single beach city, all 42 miles of coastline, and it goes as far north as Cerritos and Artesia. So it includes cities like Seal Beach, Cypress, Rossmoor, Los Alamitos, La Palma, Artesia, Hawaiian Gardens. It is absolutely incredibly unique, and I think that that's why I am so qualified for this particular position. I grew up here. I grew up in Garden Grove, and I've been living in Huntington Beach for the last 25 years. This district encompasses a lot of different elements. It is a heavily coastal district. Being a former mayor for the city of Huntington Beach, I understand coastal issues, and I know how to get things done. At the same time, in Huntington Beach, we're a population of over 200,000 residents. It's an incredibly diverse community. We have the Oakview community that is predominantly Hispanic. We touch a little bit into the Little Saigon community. So we have all different sorts of ethnicities and cultures within our own city. And I, as mayor, have launched more diversity, equity, and inclusion programs than anybody in the city of Huntington Beach. I appointed more women to boards and commissions than any other mayor in the city of Huntington Beach. And I launched programs to counter anti-Asian hate, anti-Semitism in the city of Huntington Beach. So I have a track record of success of actually doing things, not just providing a lot of lip service when it comes to diversity.
Thank you. Second question. Homelessness is a complicated issue and has become systematic in our society, affecting the mental health of those impacted. The social and cognitive ability of people without stable housing is exacerbated. What will you do to improve the availability of sustainable housing and ancillary services to minimize homelessness?
I'm so glad that I have this question because in the city of Huntington Beach, this was my focus when I got elected to the city council, and I have tremendous results of the very hard work that I've done with this. And you're right, this is a complicated issue, and to really address homelessness, you need everybody rowing in the same direction. That means your police officers need to be on board, which we have a homeless task force with 7 dedicated officers addressing homelessness. You need to have your faith-based groups involved, your nonprofits. You need to have your business community involved, your residents. We opened up a navigation center in December of 2020 to address how can we enforce some of our anti-camping ordinances. But in addition to that, as you mentioned, mental health is a big component of this. We were the first city in Southern California to launch Be Well OC Project Hope. And what that does is it allows us to go out and address nonviolent, non-emergency calls with a licensed clinical social worker and a medical professional to address homelessness. And the key thing about that is it's not your police officers that are doing this. It frees them up to do what they want to do, which is to fight crime. And it allows people who have the experience to deal with homelessness, substance abuse, all types of issues. And the great thing about the Be Well program is it's not just limited to homelessness or substance abuse. It also addresses isolation. It addresses people who are suicidal. So having these programs, in addition to Project Home Key, we could spend a half hour on all the things that we've done in Huntington Beach. But this is one of the things I'm passionate about. This is one of the things that I have a track record of success on, and I will bring that enthusiasm and that can-do attitude with the receipts to prove that it can be done without spending a fortune. You just need to have the political will to do it.
Candidate Carr, the next question is specific to Rossmoor. Over the years, the issue of Rossmoor Incorporation has come before the community. It has always been soundly rejected by the voters. The issue of governance is now being brought back again by a small group within Rossmoor. What is your position regarding Rossmoor Incorporation and the current attempts to expand the latent powers of the Rossmoor Community Services District to include public safety without first placing an issue of such consequence before the community for a formal ballot measure vote?
These are the things, I have a little bit of familiarity with this, with the annexation of Sunset Beach. And that really did come from the residents who wanted that to happen. I believe that it should be the residents that make that determination. And I had the opportunity to read some white papers about how much this community contributes to the County of Orange and what sort of services you get in return. I truly believe that it's up to this community to make that determination if they want to be incorporated or not. But as we've seen, Seal Beach is not particularly interested in taking on that project. They weren't interested when Sunset Beach was also being kicked around as well. And then Los Alamitos, again, it has to be this partnership, and it really needs to be coming from the residents. So if the residents would prefer to stay independent, and there doesn't seem to be a drain on the county for doing so, in fact, this city is a donor to the county, I don't see why you would go down that path, personally. But again, I think it should be left to the determination of the residents.
We are faced with a possibly catastrophic drought. What steps will you take to ensure our water supply and share of available water are maintained?
Well, the governor has created a master plan when it comes to water. Unfortunately, when this plan came out, COVID hit. And so there were a lot of things that were discussed that never really were brought to fruition. But we have a water crisis in California, there's no doubt about it. And we need to have every tool in the toolbox. And in our city, we were looking at desalination. Now, I was not a fan of the Poseidon project because I saw the impact that it would have on our environment, but desal can work. And there is a project being proposed right now in Dana Point that is very thoughtful, that will have the right intake, that will minimize the impact on our coastal communities. So I think we all need to be able to do our part. We all need to conserve. We need to also look at our agricultural practices to make sure that we're not wasting water and planting, maybe rice in the middle of the desert doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But nevertheless, I think that having a comprehensive plan and using every tool in the toolbox is going to be critical. And it's going to take everybody's part, not just residents, big business, agriculture has to be a part of that solution as well. So I'm hopeful that the governor will make this more front and center as we move forward, because this was put on the back burner 2 years ago, and I think more than ever now we need to really address these issues and come forward with some thoughtful solutions.
Candidate Carr, our final question for you tonight is, again, of particular import to a lot of Rossmoor residents. With the epidemic of stolen catalytic converters in the Southern California area, what specifically will you do to stop this senseless crime? And we're all aware that the governor just signed a bill, but it goes short of putting an ID number on the part, like there are on almost all the other parts in a car. So what would you do beyond what's already been done?
Well, actually, in the city of Huntington Beach, we also have an epidemic going on, and so we created an ordinance about 9 months ago to address that, to do the etching and to make the etching free for residents so that we could start to cut back on that. But I am a huge champion of our law enforcement. I added $1.5 million just to do the Be Well program. I've spent, well, not me personally, but I was part of the council that authorized us spending over $7 million when it came to police helicopters, a new fire engine, a new boat for our marine safety. So my opponent likes to say that somehow I am a defund the police type of person. I have the strong support of the Huntington Beach Police Officers Association, the firefighters, and I have been a champion for our law enforcement. I want to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be effective. So when we heard from them, creating this ordinance would be helpful. We acted on it immediately. So I don't pretend to have the answers to make police successful. I look to them and ask them, what would help you? How can I make your job easier, and how can we reduce this? So that's where we did come up with that ordinance, and I know that they're looking at doing something on a county level as well. And yes, I do believe that the state could have done a little bit more with that. And had I been in Sacramento, I would have advocated for that.
Please provide us your concluding statement.
Well, thank you so much again for the opportunity to be a part of this. I would also like to echo that my opponent is not here, nor did she fill out the application or submit a video, the questionnaire or a video. I am a person that is really just, what you see is what you get. I work incredibly hard, which is why I was incredibly successful as a business professional in the media industry for 25 years. I work so hard as a city council member, making sure that my residents are represented, that we get things done. You all have needs, You need somebody who's going to be a champion for you in Sacramento, not somebody who's going to show up for ribbon cuttings, not somebody who's going to show up to give you shiny proclamations. That does nothing. You need somebody with a seat at the table who knows how to get things done and who knows how to work across the aisle. Look, I say to people all the time, if you can make it happen in Huntington Beach, you can make it happen anywhere. We have a very passionate community. And I've been successful because I do have an open door. And I know people say that all the time, but no, I really do. When you get my business card, it has my personal cell phone number on it. I don't hide from people. I love these types of opportunities to get in front of people and talk to people and hear about what are your needs. I am a true public servant at heart. That's what I do. I don't get paid a lot of money to be on city council. I'm not doing this for a paycheck. I'm doing this because we have a need in this community. I have a need. This is my home, and I'm going to fight for it. And I am passionate about Sacramento overreach. As a city council member and former mayor, I know too many things about unfunded mandates. We don't need that. We need somebody who's a real champion and a fighter for you, and I will be that for you. I ask that you join teachers, nurses, firefighters, everyday hardworking people just like you who are voting for me to be a part of this. So learn more at votekimcarr.com, and I'll be around if you want to ask me any questions later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candidate Carr.
I believe we had a coin toss just a few minutes ago, and Mr. Taw, candidate Taw, won the coin flip. So you now have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Rossmoor Homeowners Association for giving all of us an opportunity to present ourselves, our platform, and our idea, our policy in the future if we got elected. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Trustee. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam. I came to this country in 1992. At the time, I was 19 years old. My family and I, we came here as political refugees. My father, who was imprisoned by the communist regime for many years. So after he was released, U.S. government had a program to sponsor my family and I to come here. So I came here in 1992. So after I came here, I'd like to mention that I came here in a process. It really took my family and I 12 years in the process to come here. After I came here, went to school, I got a degree in political science. And after I finished school, I went back to community in Westminster. I just want to give back to the community. I just want to give back to the country that I think that gave me a really great opportunity to be successful. And 16 years ago, many members in the community, they came to me, they asked me to run for office. So I did, and I got elected on Westminster City Council 16 years ago. And 10 years ago, there was an opportunity for me to run for mayor, and I did. So I became the first Vietnamese American elected mayor in the nation. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. First and foremost, just want to say thank you to Rossmoor Homeowners Association for hosting tonight that candidate forum. My name is Diedre Nguyen. I am currently Mayor Pro Tem for City Garden Grove, your neighbor city. A little bit about myself. I came here when I was 9 as a refugee. I was both people. My dad was a South Vietnamese Marines. He was sent to prison for 8 years after 1975, and he came. We both escaped Vietnam, and we came here. I first landed in Orange County, John Way Airport 36 years ago. I attend our public school. I'm a part of public school in the district. Through the middle school, high school, I graduated from UC Irvine as a pre-med. I was a little rebel myself. My parents wanted me to be doctors, but I decided to go into research. My background is in genetics. I work as a cancer research scientist by trade. I first time ran for office in 2016 for the Garden Grove City Council, and won the election by 62% vote. I wear multiple hats in the community. I am a community organizer because I come from a family of human rights activists, my dad, so I follow his step as a community organizer. I work to represent the community in terms of non-profit organizations. I mentoring youth organizations from in high school and college. And also, I'm also talk show host for multiple ethnic media outlets because I believe in representing the community and having media is a powerful resource to serve our community. Thank you.
We'll start our questions. We will be alternating which candidate goes first. And with this first question, candidate Nguyen, we'll start with you. Let me read the question. This year, there was a major nationwide redistricting effort aimed at serving our underrepresented populations and ethnicities. In fact, many of our existing district lines were shifted, and we now have both different boundaries and representation. Would you speak to the issues of diversity, inclusion, and give an example of how you plan to represent the many different needs and interests of our community?
Yes, I believe in inclusive. I believe in representation matter. Because as a council member for City Garden and Mayor Pro Tem City Garden, we have a very diverse community. We have 40% of API community, we have 30% Latino, and we have 30% Caucasian. So for us, we have, at the dais, we have very diverse council members as well. And this regards what party, we actually work very well because our background and our strong background of working together as a community as a whole. A little bit about, I share my experience. Back in 2016, when Garden first time going to district election, I was the one involved during the mapping selection for district election. Because I believe in map, choose a right map, involve all community to have a fair representation across the board. That's what I believe. And because of that, I was working with the Vietnamese community, Latino communities, and other community together to choose the map. And we're lobbying for that map. And at the end, 5 council members back then would unanimously select that map. And it became the map for today, to have 7 members of Garden Council. That's what my track record, because I believe in inclusive, no matter who you are, no matter what background you come from, no matter what religion you are, we as a member of our community, and that's what I hold very strongly.
Candidate Todd, this year, there was a major nationwide redistricting effort aimed at serving our underrepresented populations and ethnicities. In fact, many of our existing district lines were shifted, and we now have both different boundaries and representation. Would you speak to the issues of diversity and inclusion and give an example of how you plan to represent the many different needs and interests of our community?
Really appreciate the question. So the question is really, really the issue that we have been discussed for years. In reality, that the city of Westminster, my city, we're really diverse. We have heavily Vietnamese American community. We have Latino American community. We have Caucasian community. And for the issue of what redistrict, whatever redistrict, I truly believe that as elected official, we need to serve all the community equally, because that is the mission of all the elected officials. The elected official, we got elected by the people, so we're serving the people. And I think that in the U.S. Constitution, everyone equal, men are equal. So I think that is, I can see that's one of the basic foundation for all of us. We came here, came here from different backgrounds, came here from different country, different community, but at the end of the day, who that we respond, who that we provide a service, the people, the community that live in our district. I've been working really well with everyone in every community. I respect the culture, different community, because I think that is written pretty well in U.S. Constitution. I strongly support our U.S. Constitution. And if we all read U.S. Constitution, that's a perfect life document. Everyone is equal. So we need to serve everyone equally. We need to give everyone the same opportunity. So we're here to serve. We elected by the people and we serving the people.
Thank you.
Our next question concerns homelessness, and candidate Ta will answer first, and then candidate Nguyen. Homelessness is a complicated issue and has become systemic in our society, affecting the mental health of those impacted. The social and cognitive abilities of people without stable housing is exacerbated by homelessness. What will you do to improve the availability of sustainable housing and ancillary services to minimize the homelessness issue?
Just happened last night in the Westminster City Council. We approved one of the budget for navigation center. That is the project. That's the mutual project of Garden Grove, Westminster, and Front Valley. So now we're all aware that issue of homelessness is really complicated. No one could able to solve the problem by himself or by herself. This is a long process. We need to have support from the state. We need to have the blessing from the federal and all the local agencies. We need to work together, because right now the issue of homelessness involved with many other issues: mental issue, unemployment issue, and you talk about a mental issue, how to treat people with depression, family, personal issues. So everyone have different circumstance, and the government, also provide the shelter, but at the same time, we just want to make sure that we have the process, we have the treatment process, or we make sure that the person really motivated to get a job, to get out of homelessness. So that is a really long and really complicated issue. But the solution is all the agency. We need to understand the funding, and we need to use the funding efficiently. We cannot, only build shelter and, we are not providing any other services. So the shelter is good, but however, we need to have another treatment, another process, and we need to coordinate all agencies. All agencies need to get involved. Non-profit organizations need to get involved. Many faith-based organizations need to get involved. So all together, we need to get involved.
Candidate Nguyen, I'll reread the question again for your answer. Homelessness is a complicated issue and has become systemic in our society, affecting the mental health of those impacted. The social and cognitive abilities of people without stable housing is exacerbated by homelessness. What will you do to improve the availability of sustainable housing and ancillary services to minimize the homelessness issue?
Thank you for the question. In terms of homelessness, it's a complicated issue, no doubt about it. I just want to give you an example. City Garden Grove, a couple of months ago, a couple of years ago, we've been talking about navigation center long ago. For the past 2 years, we had tried hard to identify location in City Garden Grove, and we were able to find an ideal location to build a navigation center. So a couple of months ago, we decided to move forward with the project, and we tried to find funding. And City Garden was the first one initiate the site to build a navigation center. Once we identified the site, we actually reached out to different cities. We reached out to Front Valley, Stanton, and Westminster to collaborate in building the navigation center together, because city alone, we're not rich city. So we cannot, once you build it, you need to have funding, sustainability for long-term services. So City Garden will reach out to those neighbor cities to say, hey, let's work together, let's have a navigation center, one navigation center sharing, so we can share the cost. And we did that. A month ago, City Garden was finalized. The City Council vote moved forward, and then yesterday, thank you, Mayor Chita, for voting on that, on the last budget for the navigation center together. Now, what can we do for the navigation center? I just want to follow up with Councilmember Kim Carr about BWOC. Huntington Beach was the first one to start with BWOC. Garden Grove was second, because we believe in not just providing shelter, but providing services to help those need the treatment and for long-term commitments, so they can come back to our community as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Third question, and we'll start with candidate Nguyen. Over the years, the issue of Rossmoor Incorporation has come before the community. It has always been soundly rejected. The issue of governance is now being brought back again by a small group within Rossmoor. What is your position regarding Rossmoor Incorporation and the current attempts to expand the latent powers of the RCSD, the Rossmoor Community Services District, to include public safety without first placing an issue of such consequence before the community for a formal ballot measure vote?
Well, one of the words I cut from your question is small group. I believe when you want to change something, you have to be transparent. You have to take input from the community. Because I can give you an example of City Garden Road. We have when we decide on something, we have a lot of session open community input, because it's our community as a whole. What we want to see every day in our community, what we want to see when we walk down the street, what the ordinance is going to help our community. That's what I believe in wholehearted. And in order to do that, every one of us need to have a voice, not just small group. I don't believe in small group. I always call myself, I am community organizer, because everything I do is community input as a whole. And I can tell you my experience for many of City Garden Council or before that, just like a redistricting or even the districting, we had so many community meetings to get every single constituent give us input, online or offline, phone call. We even do a log survey, because we believe that one voice for all, or all for one out for together as community. So no matter what, I support local control. I support the voice of our community. So as your representative in the state, I want to hear from you. And I'm very transparent. Open door policy is a must. And that's what I want to hear from all of you. I want to make sure we have input from every one of you. Thank you.
Candidate Ta, over the years, the issue of Rossmoor Incorporation has come before the community. It has always been soundly rejected. The issue of governance is now being brought back again by a small group within Rossmoor. What is your position regarding Rossmoor Incorporation and the current attempts to expand the latent powers of the RCSD, Rossmoor Community Services District, to include public safety without first placing an issue of such consequence before the community for a formal ballot measure vote?
First, I have to say very honestly, Rossmoor is a beautiful community, many beautiful homes. Why I said that? Because in the last primary, I did work door to door in Rossmoor. Beautiful home, the people really, really nice, really polite. I feel so appreciative. I feel so thankful every time the person open the door and give me the welcome, give me an opportunity. And that's what I learned from Rossmoor community. I think the people, they want to have a saying in anything. Rossmoor community, I think majority of Rossmoor community want to be independent. So that's why I learned a lot by knocking door to door. I understand. So the issue like that, I let the resident of Rossmoor decide, because any direction, any policy, then they must have the will of the people. And it's up to the will of the people who live in Rossmoor. Whatever they want to be, whatever district or whatever, I totally respect that. Rossmoor is a beautiful community. I work door to door and I feel like I feel my energy. I feel my energy because the homeowner, they keep their home so beautiful. So that gives me the confidence of this community is really strong, really healthy, and really independent.
Thank you.
Our next question concerns the drought. Candidate Ta, we're faced with a possibly catastrophic drought in California right now. What steps will you take to ensure our water supply and share of available water are maintained for all California residents?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I appreciate that. As some of you are aware, I also elected director on Orange County Water District. I had the honor to serve on that Orange County Water District for the last 4 years. So in my Orange County Water District, I am representing the people who live in Rossmoor. So drought is a critical issue that the state of California, we always, facing, and especially for the last several years. So we see that. Water conservation is one of the options that all the city had been doing. And we're talking about water conservation. City of Westminster, we won the award a few years ago for the city with us saving the most water in the state, in the nation. That's why we got an award, I think, in 2018. So water conservation. However, the state of California, we need to provide a plan. We need to come up with a plan in advance. So all the city will all be repaired. We cannot wait until the drought hit us, and then we come up with a policy. It's not going to be that way. I also learned, as a mayor, that there are the little fish in the north. So people, they try to keep that environment, but at the same time, we have to deal with shortage of water. So I hope in the future, the lawmaker in Sacramento, they need to come up with a really good solution and let the people have a saying, all the local agency have a saying in the process to come up with a good solution.
Candidate Nguyen, the same question for you. We are faced with the possibility of a catastrophic drought in California right now. And what steps will you take to ensure our water supply and the share of available water are maintained to all California residents?
Thank you. Well, let's face it, we are a drought, no matter what. We haven't seen rain for a while. The last rain was just few drops. I think conserving water is each of us responsibility. Not just one. We cannot just blame one and not the others. It's each of us. Because the lawmaker is us. It's from the community. And at the same time, we have been talking about this for years, and yet we drag our feet. I had to say that because as a scientist myself, when I do my research paper, we have a project, we have timeline, we have deadline, we have this, and I had to see a lot of talk, but no action. It was dragging feet. There's a program of desalination. There's a lot of alternative, and yet we didn't do our part. So from moving forward, we identify the issue. We need to act on it. Right now, we have some alternative. The governor is working on some of the plan. Let's look at alternative. Let's look at think outside the box and open mind. I actually went to the desalination station in Dana Point. I actually have a tour there. I'm impressed with what they have. We have to look at those because we cannot shuffle under the carpet anymore. We need water. Water is a fundamental of life. And at the same time, the conservation is coming from each of us. And I want to make sure we moving quickly. This is called urgency. Thank you.
Following the same order we did for the introductions, will you please provide a conclusion for up to 2 minutes, starting with candidate Ta?
Yeah, I'm so honored to be here, and I want to thank you for your time, for giving me a good opportunity to explain myself, to come up with a solution if I got elected in Sacramento. I'm running for state assembly because I want to lower the cost of living. I want to make sure that I'm the voice of the middle class. I want to reduce regulation from the state of California, so all the businesses have opportunity to grow. I want to fight crime. We are aware that the state of California have AB 109, Proposition 47, 57, that bad law release criminal earlier. So that's why right now almost 500 cities in California had to suffer with the increase of crime. So I just want to make sure that I will bring that down. I fight for the middle class. I fight for affordability, fight for issue of homelessness. I think that we are aware that for the last 2 decades, politics in Sacramento not healthy. 60 member Democrat, only 19 member Republican. We need to have some balance. I understand we need to have some balance. We need to have check and balance. So we need to make sure that we got elected in Sacramento. We understand where we're coming from. We understand the people in our community. Fight for middle class. Lower cost of living, fight for lower tax. So we just need to repeal gas tax. Look at the gas price right now in the state of California, that's really, really high. We need to bring that down. Thank you.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for your time tonight. All of you sacrificed your time for a few hours on Thursday night. Thank you so much. One of the reasons why I run for office from the medical field to run for office is to serve our community. My motto is, let's talk, more action, gain trust. It's about trust. It's not about party line. Let's put it that way. It's about our community first. I grew up in the community. We work hard for our community. We want to make the community a better place for not just us, but for our kids. I'm a mother of 3. I have 3 rascals, 3 boys. And I want to have a community healthy, safe for them. I am the only candidate get endorsed by the police and by the firefighter. Because to me, public safety is also something that I held highly. I want to make sure we have a healthy environment for our kids, for our grandkids. Actually, let's go back a little further. For my mom, who actually is senior right now, for my kid and my grandkids. That's what it's not about the party line. It's not about whether you're Republican or Democrat. It's about a member of our community, your neighbor, your mom, your mom's friend, my kid mother, and dad. That's why we run for office. We run for office because we want our community to be better and have a strong advocate, strong voice who fight. And one thing I think about this is transparency and communication. 2 things is I held high as a scientist. We have to have that. I hold that as my motive when I run for office, and I'll be your representative in Sacramento the same way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Carr and Candidate Nguyen.
Good evening, candidates Hill and Goldberg. Welcome to our candidates night. We had a coin flip again to determine the order of introduction, and candidate Hill won that. So you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I tried to defer like in a football game, but that didn't work. So, good evening. I'm really pleased to be here this evening, and I want to thank RHA for hosting this event. It's really important to have an opportunity to get to meet candidates, for them to be able to come out and you hear their voices and they hear your questions and you be able to really connect with them. So, who am I? I am the proud mother of 2 Griffin graduates. a loving wife to Randy Hill, a blessed grandmother of 4, honored executive director of an organization called Pathways to Independence, which is a social impact organization. I am a committed community member, and I am a humble school board trustee. I'm a woman who really believes that parents have the right to educate their child the best way they see fit. I want and believe that LaSalle is an amazing option for those parents. We know that people move here for our schools. We know that this community creates an incredible environment for our students. You can look at a lot of Orange County schools and see where they may do one thing well. In LaSalle, we are committed to the 4 A's, and we do them well. And that would be academics, athletics, activities, and the arts. I also believe in local control. I believe that we need to have more control in our school districts so that it matches our community. And I fight for that with my voice in Sacramento as well, as often as I can. I have a long track record of doing this. I believe very strongly in our parents and in our teachers and our community members. I have put myself in a lot of really uncomfortable positions to hear constituents. I want to hear every voice, not just the voices that agree with me. And I'm here for the greater good. Thank you very much.
Candidate Goldberg, it's your turn, 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Rona Goldberg. I'm running for School Board Trustee Area 3. Thank you, RHA, for having me and for all of you coming out to hear me. So my family moved to Rossmoor 9 years ago. We were looking for a place to raise our family, for a great church and good schools. I can't even really tell you how we found Rossmoor. Just somehow we were driving and then we were at Rossmoor Park. And we were like, where are we? What is this community? And we were like, could we actually move here? And it was like a hidden gem. So we sold our house in Los Angeles and we bought out here in Rossmoor, and it's been great. We have wonderful neighbors, and it's a great community, and there are great schools. So while walking in the neighborhood one day, I met a lady, and she was telling me about some of the things that were happening in the district, some things that they were teaching, and it caused me some concern. And I was shocked. There were some things related to critical race theory. So, okay, fine. So that just piqued my curiosity. I wanted to know more. I was shocked because, one, that was being introduced at the district, and secondly, because I didn't hear it from the district itself. So I started to attend board meetings. And then as I got more involved, I started having more concerns. So right now, currently I have 2 children in the district, recently 3. My son just graduated in the summer, and now he's in college. So like I said, I've been concerned about what the kids are learning, and the feedback I've been getting from parents is that they're concerned. They're concerned and they have questions about the ethnic studies classes, the new health curriculum, and the new social emotional curriculum, which I've asked for like what that is, and so far I haven't gotten a response. So I think a lack of transparency is an issue, and I would like to have more of that from the board. And if I'm elected, I will serve to act as a liaison between the community and the district.
Candidate Goldberg, you'll be answering this first question first. What is one specific passion or interest you have towards our district schools? How can you bring this passion to fruition in your representation as a school district trustee?
One interest I have, and it's personal, I have a special needs student. So, and it's been hard because just trying to get access to all the services has been, it's almost, you feel like you need a second job to, just as what it entails to find out what to do. So I would like to be an advocate for parents that are trying to navigate the whole special needs community. as I'm on that journey as well. I would like to have more, if we could, when I'm on the board, and I know I wouldn't be, it's just, I have to work as a team, but I would like to have more funding to increase the professional development for teachers. I used to be a classroom teacher. I understand when you have multiple levels in the classroom, it can be very challenging. So I would like to offer the teachers support so they can help special needs students. So that's a passion for me.
Candidate Hill, I'll read the question again. What is one specific passion or interest you have towards our district schools? How can you bring this passion to fruition in your representation as a school district trustee?
Thank you very much for the question. I think one of the things I'm most passionate about is really hearing what parents want for their children. I believe very strongly that each parent is different and has different desires and different goals for their children. I believe that their households have different beliefs and that they want their children to come from their value systems and their beliefs. And I believe that that has to be done on a local level, and it has to be done with us being able to take what is mandated at the state and open up as many options as possible to parents. I think a lot of times things are said about what we're doing in the school district that are incorrect. And they may be incorrect completely, or they may be mandated by the state, and we're trying to find the best options possible. For a quick example, we have our Healthy Life program for our children, and we know that there are a lot of parents who really feel strongly that they want to have those conversations with their children. They don't want those conversations had in a classroom. But I also know that there are children that are never going to get those conversations, and those conversations need to happen so they understand what is going on with their bodies. And so we give our parents the choice of understanding what the curriculum is, and they can opt out if they choose to and educate their child at home for that. The more opportunities we have for parents to make decisions for their children, the stronger our district is. And that is something that I fight for on a regular basis.
Thank you. The next question for you both concerns the pandemic. Candidate Hill will go first, followed by candidate Goldberg. The COVID pandemic brought immediate and tremendous change to the teaching and learning processes. What are some good things we have learned from the pandemic, and what are the biggest challenges we face in recovering from the pandemic?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, I am going to brag on our district because we were the first district to open in Orange County. We were also a district that gave parents options once again. So there was a hybrid opportunity for parents if they wanted their children in school, and there was an amazing opportunity for their students to learn online if they felt that was what was best for their families. I think that we addressed those issues better than anybody I've seen, and I don't brag on that related to me as a board member. I do as staff. Just imagine having your whole life upheaved and having to figure out, how do we keep engaging our kids? Our kids were online with their teachers in March in less than 3 days. Less than the 3 days, they were still engaged. When the new school year came around, they had options. They had options to go to school in a hybrid method, or they had options to stay at home. When we came back fully in September, our students came back fully in September with limitations to make things safe. We did all of that and brought them all back. It has been an incredible journey, and I am on a CSBA delegate, and I talk to a lot of delegates in Orange County. And I know that what we did is way up there on anybody's list. And it's because, once again, we wanted parents to have the best options possible for their children. There are over 1 million children in this country that have been lost in the system. Nobody knows where they are because districts didn't work this hard to get these options open. Thank you.
Candidate Goldberg, I'll reread the question for you. The COVID pandemic brought immediate and tremendous change to the teaching and learning processes. What are some good things we have learned from the pandemic, and what are the biggest challenges we face in recovering from the pandemic?
Well, I'll start with the challenge. I think one of the big challenges is, well, two. One, mental health. I think a lot of the students had a hard time being isolated for such a long time, and that's something that's still being addressed. I know the district, through the bond of all the residents, was able to get the money to build the new building. Then they have a new mental health aspect there, which I think is important. I would like actually to know more about it. I think that also goes with the transparency that I've talked about, that I would like to see more transparency from the board. But they do have a new mental health facility at the school, which is important for all the kids. And also another challenge that I see is just learning loss. So a lot of our scores are, well, we're about 50, for the high school, we're 57% proficient in math. We lost about 800 students since, I think, in the past 2 years. So I think those are important aspects that need to be, if we can fix it, to draw people back into the district. And for the things that went well, I would say, I think the district actually did a good job as far as getting the online schooling and everything up and running pretty quickly. So I think that went well. And also, I would say that people got through it and were resilient. I think the teachers and the parents and the staff worked together very well.
Thank you. I'm going to ask our host, we've got 3 questions. We have 1 question we'd like to ask last. Do we have time for all 3, or? Yes. Okay, great. All right, so candidate Goldberg, this will start with you, but you will both be asked this question. Funding for public education is often misunderstood by the general public because of the multiple sources and ever-changing legislation that guides it. Do you feel that the local control funding formula helps or hurts the education budget for Los Alamitos? What are insights that you share with others less informed about the school budget to help them better understand it?
Okay, so I'm not totally familiar with the budget. I know the money we have, about 80% of it is used for staff and benefits and things like that. So I would say with the remaining money that we have, it's important that the board does give oversight for the budget. We don't make the budget, but we do approve the budget. So I think it's important to just use common sense measures with what we have to spend and what we can spend it on. Things that are important. I think getting input from the community is important to see what the community feels is important.
Candidate Hill, funding for public education is often misunderstood by the general public because of the multiple sources and ever-changing legislation that guides it. Do you feel that the local control funding formula helps or hurts the education budget for Los Alamitos? What are insights that you share with others less informed about the school budget to help them better understand it?
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate this question because this is how I got involved in the school district to begin with. And about 14, 15 years ago, there was an issue with budget shortfalls in Los Alamitos Unified. And my background is I have a degree in accounting, and I have been an executive and dealt with P&Ls all my life and budgets. And so I went to this meeting and said, how hard is it really to balance the budget in a school district? Well, you know what I found out? school district funding is substantially different than regular funding. So it is a very difficult and a very learned process. And so when you talk about that, because of our social economic status that we have here in this community, we get the lowest amount of funding. We get about 15% extra funding because of our free and reduced lunch. Other than that, we get the base. That's all we get is the base. And Sacramento keeps putting additional mandates on top of us. One of them is special education. They have all these mandates for special education, and when they fund it, we don't know, but we have to take out from our general fund to make sure those things are covered. And they promise us the money in the future. There's been a big push on lifting the base. The more, if they would fund the base, we would have the opportunity to have more of that local control and be able to do a lot of the things we want to do. One of the other huge issues is the pension issue. And I completely believe that teachers they earn and get their pensions. But what Sacramento has done is that they've taken that and they've put that responsibility on the district. And now all of a sudden, where we never had to budget for that before, now we're having to budget for that. And that's coming directly out of dollars for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question also concerns some financial matters and also teacher tenure. Candidate Hill, you'll answer first, and then Candidate Goldberg. By some measures, the most highly compensated teachers in Orange County and in the state of California teach in the Los Alamitos Unified School District. After a teacher has successfully completed his or her 3-year probationary period in the Los Al schools, it is nearly impossible to fire them. Discuss the pros and cons of this agreement, most commonly referred to as teacher tenure.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to do that. I very much support our professional teachers. We have tremendous professional teachers, but I don't agree with the system under which we are. And so I believe that all of us have to come and do our very best every day, and I believe our teachers do that. And so, but on the other hand, it is very difficult in the situation to have the support of teachers when there is this tenure sometimes in play. And so we have professional development, that we have extensive professional development for our teachers. And that isn't something that can necessarily be mandated. That is something that we have to, as a culture, create them wanting to do that. And I would say that the majority of our teachers do those kinds of things. But the issue is that there is no way to hold them accountable that directly hits their pocketbook. And I think that out in the world that I've lived in as a professional all my life, that is the way that the world works. But this is the system we're under, and we're very, very fortunate here in La Salle to have tremendous teachers. And so I think that we work really well together when it comes to that. But I do think as a whole that sometimes that problem can be systemic. I don't think we have that here. And I think our teachers are paid really well here because they do a really good job, and that we manage our budget so that we can do that, and so that we can continue to pay them and get the best talent we possibly can. You know that if you have a school that is starting at one level and then a school that's starting at another level, you're going to attract better talent. And when that talent comes into our district, it lifts the bar for everybody. So that really is always been our philosophy and our goal, to be able to find the best talent and to keep them. Thank you.
Candidate Goldberg, the same question to you. Again, by some measures, the most highly compensated teachers in Orange County and in the state of California teach in the Los Alamitos Unified School District. After a teacher has successfully completed his or her 3-year probationary period in the Los Al schools, it is nearly impossible to fire them. Discuss the pros and cons of this agreement, commonly referred to as teacher tenure.
Okay, so like I said, I was an elementary school teacher for about 10 years. So I didn't have a problem with tenure because I did my job. I did the trainings, I made all my evaluations were good. So I'm happy for tenure for teachers that are doing well. I think teachers work hard, and I wish I could pay them more. So I'm fine with it for teachers that are doing well. The problem is when you have, so this is the con, when you have teachers that aren't doing a great job. We have a lot of wonderful teachers here, like Ms. Hill said, in the Los Alamitos School District, but there are some that aren't doing as well. And then that's hard because you can't fire them. And that's a difficult situation, but there's not really a lot you can do because a lot of that has to do with the unions and their contract. So there's not really much you can do to get rid of a teacher that has tenure. But it's hard for the children. Like I said, I currently have children in the district, and there's a few, and I could speak personally, where my high schooler has said she didn't even want to get up to leave her seat to go to the restroom because there's a teacher and she doesn't feel comfortable because she might get yelled at. So, and this teacher has tenure, and I've been warned for, oh no, I hope you didn't get this teacher. And I'm not saying that's even the majority of the teachers, but it's hard when you have even a few teachers. It affects your whole experience. So I wish there was something that we could just reward people, like in the real world. If you're not doing your job well, you get fired. I wish we could do that, but we can't. But only thing we can do is support the teachers as best that we can through professional development and encouraging them. But I appreciate teachers having been one.
This next question is coming right back at you. How do you define diversity, and what is the role of inclusion in the classroom? Identify any practices that need to be implemented or stopped in Los Alamitos public schools. Candidate Goldberg.
I think diversity, inclusion can be great things. I think when you have those, it's an opportunity to learn from each other, and then you grow as a human being, and you can take those experiences out into the world. So I appreciate diversity. Learning about each other's cultures, I think is very important. Like I said, my children, they are, in my personal life, are diverse. And they feel very welcomed at the school, and I hope that for every child in the school. The part that I have some issue with in the classroom is I think sometimes it can be focused on a little bit too much. And sometimes we talk so much about our differences, we forget how much that we have in common. I think we're actually more alike than we are different. And so I think those things have to be balanced about how they're approached. A couple years ago, and I was mentioning this, there was an assignment that a student had in the middle school that said, "Why am I a racist?" And then when that was brought to the district, they said that met the social justice standards. I think that's inappropriate. So I think it has its place, but it has to have balance to how that's taught. Because like I said, I think we have more in common than sometimes we think. I think we have more similarities. The people I talk to in the neighborhood, we're not as far apart as we seem. I think most people can meet in the middle. And I think diversity of thought is also important, to respect other people's points of view. Thank you.
Candidate Hill, how do you define diversity, and what is the role of inclusion in the classroom? Identify any practices that need to be implemented or stopped in our Los Alamitos public schools.
Thank you very much. And I have had two children go through this district and graduate. And there has certainly been a change in our community, and it has become more diverse, and it is a beautiful thing. I had a coffee chat the other day with somebody, and we were talking, and I love the way that she put this. She's a scientist, and she said, you know, scientists believe that the more diversity that you have, the stronger you are. And I believe that's where we are. And I believe that's where what we're finding in our community. And I'm going to use a word that can really be polarizing sometimes, but I want people to understand what we mean by it when we say it in this district. And that's equity. We have forever talked about equity, equity at that student's level. What does that student need? We want all students to have what they need at their place. They are individuals, and so they should have equity as other students have. So if one student has for example, if one student has a two-wheel bicycle because they can ride one, why would we give a kindergarten a two-wheel bicycle because they can't ride one yet? Right? So we need to meet that student where they are to have that equity. I also do believe that there are sometimes things that are misconstrued that the district is doing. We are all about having our children, I think, remain and have their innocence for as long as possible. That is something really important to me, and that I want to make sure that kids want to be kids, and they all look at each other alike. And that's what we should be really enforcing in our school district.
Thank you. The final question for both of you. We hope that both of you will think outside the box a little bit about this one. And Ms. Candidate Hill, we will go to you first. If you had a magic wand and could change one thing about anything related to the schools and learning, what would it be and why?
I think that, as Mrs. Goldberg said, we are more alike than we are different. And that we need to get back to being able to learn, to have discussion, and to be able to give children what they need where they are. And I believe we do that very well in this district, but there's always more opportunity for that. And so I would love to see smaller class sizes. I would love for us to be able to do more pullouts. I would love for us to be able, the high school teachers, not have to have 35, 40 students in a class. I would love for those things to be able to be available to us, and that really comes down to our budget, and we work as hard as we can to get there. But I believe that the more opportunities that we can have for our children at smaller class sizes, the more valuable is. Now, there is a point of diminishing return. Everybody thinks, 12 to 1 would be great. There's not a lot of data that supports that. There is data that supports different levels at different age groups, and I would love for us to be at the optimal in every one of them. We're one of the districts that have really kept our school sizes, our class sizes, very small up until 3rd grade. That is such an important process for our children. And so I think if that was what I had as a magic wand, I think we would all come together with our hands in the middle, knowing what was best, and that each individual child was different, and we had to find a solution for that child, and that we could be able to have the smallest class sizes possible.
Thank you. Same question for you, Candidate Goldberg. If you had a magic wand and could change one thing about anything related to schools and learning, what would it be and why?
One thing. My goodness. So the wands, sometimes they keep going. You can get a few things. One thing is very hard. So I like class size reduction, but I would say when I've been in the neighborhood talking to parents, I would say the big concern would be transparency. That was the one reason that started me running, was transparency with the board, parental rights. So I would want to, even if people disagree, I would like to have a big, huge meeting and people bring all your concerns, bring your whatever it is, and we hash it out. I feel like we could figure it out. If we just come together, take issue by issue, okay, sports, what's going on with you guys? Because it seems like some things just don't get done, or it takes such a long time. I would like to get everybody in a group, okay, what's going on with the sports? Let's deal with it. Let's see if we can figure this out. Okay, special ed community, let's see if we can talk about what your needs are, and let's figure this out. So if I could really have my wish, it would take all the components of all the schools and somehow have, I don't know, a big get-together, big brouhaha. Let's just get it out there. Let's do it. Let's deal with it. Fix the problems that need fixing and move on. So that's what I would want. That's what's interesting to me. I'm like, let's solve some problems. Let's, make some things happen. I think that would be fun, interesting.
Your concluding statement can be up to 2 minutes. We'll go in the same order as the introductions. Candidate Hill, will you please start?
Thank you very much, and I once again want to thank the ability to be able to have this. There were a couple of things brought up that I really want to talk about quickly if I can, and one is mental health, and that really is a huge issue for us. And our wellness centers and our relationship with LAIF that has been able to make those things happen is just tremendous. And so I'm really grateful for that. I really do believe math is an issue. We know math is an issue. That's not anything that's hidden. We really started doing some really tough work on that in 2018 and 2019. We had put a lot of money into it, and what happened? The pandemic hit. And that was not possible. And we are regaining, and we are going to get much better at that and are working towards that. Declining enrollment. Our declining enrollment has been 600 over the last 10 years. And you, Rossmoor residents, asked us for that. 8 years ago, I sat in this room and listened to you ask me for that because you didn't want inter-district transfers driving into the community. And we have done that. Some has come because of the pandemic. There is no doubt about that. And statewide, everybody's having that issue. So we are aware of that, and that's one of the things we really need to make sure that we're on top of. I want to make sure that our staff and our schools remain stable, engaged, and advancing. This is a nonpartisan position, and I believe really strongly in listening to the voices of all parents. Your child is not more important than my child. Every child is important. We have to hear that. We have to hear about every child. But the board also has to have a 30,000-foot view, right? We set the goal and the vision for the district. We hire the superintendent and supervise the superintendent, and we listen to our constituents, to every one of them. And so I really appreciate the time. I am having coffees, and those are on the back of my card. The date for October 7th has changed to the 14th. I forgot it was the night before Taste for LaSalle. But I intend to continue those if I am reelected. So you can find more information about me at hill4lasalle.com, and there are also cards on your seats, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, RHA, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for coming. So I just want to say in closing that many of you moved here for the schools, but right now I think we do have some issues that need to be fixed. Does that mean that everything in LaSalle is bad? Of course not. My kids have had a great experience from the Sacramento trip to the Kona ice truck. I've been to the sporting events, the choir, orchestra, and it's wonderful. And I've recently met parents who have had kind words to say about Mr. Willems, who's the principal at LAE, and had wonderful words to say about Mr. Pulver from his Lee days. Let's say, as I've been walking through the neighborhood, I realized that we are not as far apart as it would seem. We may not agree on everything, but I've been able to find common ground with people that I've spoken to. Everything has become so political lately, and this is a nonpartisan position. And sometimes when that happens, the important things are forgotten. Like I said, I am the only person on the board currently that has children in the district. And while you don't have to have children in the district to serve, I think it does give you a little more insight into the here and now, and things are affecting me and maybe some of you every day. We are living in interesting times, to say the least. And I have a quote from Winston Churchill that says, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. It's also what it takes to sit down and listen." And I think I am your candidate that can do both those things. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Candidate Hill and Candidate Goldberg.
Oh,
Pardon me?
and if you want flyers, I don't have any. I left them at home. But my website is ronaforschoolboard.com. Or you come to my house. We all live in Rossmoor pretty much, and just come get some. I live next to me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Good luck.
Good evening to all of you. We had a coin flip again to determine order, and Mr. Maynard, candidate Maynard, won the coin flip. So he will go first. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank the RHA for putting this together. If you look around, there's a lot of people, so I also want to thank you for everybody who came and joined us tonight. Participation is key when it comes to the community. I have served on this board in the past for almost 9.5 years, have had a tremendous amount of accomplishments that I can go on and on beyond 2 minutes. But what I've seen from afar, because of COVID, I have too many Zooms in my life, but I do watch, I do ask questions. And it just seems like our current board has started to bicker over national things. And at the end of the day, the Rossmoor Community Service District is to provide services as best as we can to our constituents. With the years of experience, I served as president for 4 of those near 10 years. All but 2 years I was an officer, and I think I conducted myself professionally and have a lot of things. I'm very proud to also say that 2 of the initiatives helped reduce and helped save you money. I was part of the leadership that opted to have the plan to pay off our wall early, to pay off this building and this facility early, saving you thousands of dollars. So I was very proud of that. And one of the things I was really proud is when it comes to community, we're all in this together. We actually took on the gas company. I led that initiative, and we prevented people's homes from having an ugly big pole with solar stuff on there so the gas company could communicate your usage. So I was part of the team that actually helped homeowners not have some monstrosity in front of their yard. A little bit about me. I have 2 daughters that we raised in here since 2002. They're now 20 and 22. And, you know, that's a rough age to raise a father. But they're doing pretty good. That was a joke. You know, I throw those in for free, guys. So, but with that said, I'm a big stakeholder in this community. I have served before. I have a perspective that's a little different being a CEO. And I think that's a perspective that helps the community. I'm about consensus and building teams. I like to equip and inspire. And I hope I have your vote.
Candidate Churchill,
Yes, good evening.
2 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. A little bit about my background. I moved here about 3 years ago, and that was, of course, like at the beginning of COVID, so everything was shut down. But I made the best of it. What I did was make friends with my neighbors across the street, and we engaged in community shopping. I would help shop, and we'd share our pantry items, and you remember the shortage on toilet paper. I always made sure there was plenty to pass around. But I started reading all the information about what's going on with the district and the Homeowners Association, and like Mr. Maynard said, there was bickering, and having served on a city council and on a planning commission in an elected capacity, that's not normal. And I wanted to figure out what was going on, so I did a lot of research. I went and looked behind what was causing this, and what I discovered was that some of the board members were engaging in activities that were beyond the jurisdiction of their office, and their actions were completely inappropriate. This idea of going to the state legislature with a proposal to expand powers of the district without community input, I found horrifying. When you're an elected official, you work for the voters. The voters tell you what they want you to do. As an elected official, you don't go and do something on their behalf without telling them. In my experience in government, I was on the city council. When I worked in Signal Hill, it was basically an oil field with contaminated soil. There was no Home Depot, no homes on the hill, no parks, and I worked on projects that generated income. That income was not new taxes for the people who lived in town. That income paid for community services for the 3 elementary schools we had in town. We funded our own police department. When you called them, they showed up in 3 minutes. And we built parks because we understood the value of having parks and recreation. You have a miracle in Rossmoor. Your board has built the parks and maintained them
Carol,
perfectly.
it's time.
Thank you.
And candidate Shade, 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for coming here tonight, and thank you for all those out there listening on the airwaves. My name is Jo Shade. I am a longtime resident here in Rossmoor, 25 years, and I have dedicated myself to this community on many levels. I am married, and I have one girl, one and done. Perhaps you have met her. I work really hard in this community, and my motivation is my baby girl, and to maintain this neighborhood, our community in which it is. So I work daily and diligently to do that. I am on the board of directors with the Rossmoor Homeowners Association, and I'm very proud of that. I work very hard. I feel like since I've been on this board, I have transformed it. Not single-handedly, by no means, but in the past 4 years, we have transformed it. We've done more on this board in the past 4 years than they've done in the past 50. So I feel really proud to be a part of that. I'm on this board. I'm also on the board of directors with the Los Alamitos Chamber of Commerce. So I work really closely with the businesses in the area as well. I have a lot of connections in the community. I build bridges, and I work with them all very tightly, including the school district. I've spent a decade over at St. Hedwig, where I went all the way to PTO president, and I'm including running the Autumn Fest there for about 15 years. Then I jumped to the Rossmoor Homeowners, and now I give all my talents and my efforts and everything to Rossmoor, which I absolutely love. I am the connector of the community. I get calls every day from multiple people in the area. I attend local meetings for the city, for the RCSD, for the neighborhood, and local businesses. Lastly, I'm a realtor, and I diligently work on all that I can.
The first question, we'll start with candidate Churchill. What is one specific passion or interest you have towards our Rossmoor parks? How can you bring this passion to fruition in your representation as an RCSD director?
I'm a tree hugger. I am not ashamed to admit that. I've been a member of the Sierra Club since 1984. Trees are important to your community. They're not important just because they bring you oxygen. They're important because they bring you value to your property. I feel fortunate to live in this beautiful community. I came here because of the way it looks. Your district provides wonderful services. Their parks are immaculate and they're operated with precision. You are very fortunate to have that. But being an owner in Rossmoor, you also have made an investment in your community. And that investment includes the amenities from your park. And as long as this board will focus on providing you with those recreational services and maintaining the parks, not only will your home go up in value, but your lifestyle will go up in value. I recognize that, and I would work towards benefiting you by using my experience that I gained in Signal Hill in creating parks and operating them.
Candidate Shea, what is one specific passion or interest you have towards our Rossmoor parks? How can you bring this passion to fruition in your representation as an RCSD director?
Easy. That's the easy one for me. If you know me or heard about me, you know that on the Rossmoor Homeowners Association, I'm the events chair. Currently, and since I have been in this position, I work extremely tight with the RCSD in planning all of their events. So the events that you attend during the summer, the festivals, all the entertainment lineup, and the volunteers, right here. That's what I do. So my interest is huge because that's what I do. I love to provide, I want to say entertainment, but just a place for people to go and enjoy and be with each other in our community. Our festivals that we do here are huge. They're super popular. People love them, and it brings the community together in a really positive way, and that's what I love, and that is a passion for me.
Thank you. Candidate Maynard, what is one specific passion or interest you have towards our Rossmoor parks? How can you bring this passion to fruition in your representation as an RCSD director?
Well, first I'd like to thank these ladies for acknowledging what the board has done, and while I was on that board. The passion that I have is activities for all, meaning that our current tot lot when we were in here was not ADA compliant. So I led that effort to make it ADA, American Disabilities Act. Up until that time it wasn't. So I took great pride on opening that up and then seeing other people who weren't using the park using it. While I was on the board, a colleague of mine, Bill Kaler, had this idea. Michael, Winterfest, what do you think? I like it. So he and I worked together to come up with our very first Winterfest. And it was challenging because of the weather, but it was a tremendously successful event. But back to the whole point of activities for all. I think one of the things some people think is maybe we cater to too much youth sports. I believe youth sports is important. I've always backed it up, but I also think that we can do a little bit more in activities for all ages. So I think maybe we have one too many dugouts that we can possibly pull out and think of other activities that open it up for all generations. So I would like to have more park access and activities that are for all groups, kids, families, middle age, and maybe even some senior activities.
Thank you.
The next question concerns Rossmoor and its governance. And we'll start with candidate Shea. Over the years, the issue of Rossmoor Incorporation has come before the community many times. It has always been soundly rejected by the voters. The issue of governance is now being brought back again by a small group within Rossmoor. What is your position regarding Rossmoor Incorporation and the current attempts to expand the latent powers of the RCSD to include public safety, without first placing such an issue before the community for a formal ballot measure vote? Candidate Shea.
I appreciate this question on many levels. It's been given to everybody, and I'm super glad that it's been given to us. So this is a tough one because I have a certain level of understanding on why they would want that. On the other hand, I feel like its cost has come way too high. There hasn't been any transparency, and there's been a level of discredit, and quite frankly, the credibility of the RCSD has come under question in the neighborhood for not being transparent and not sharing with our residents in a timely manner in which we should have. Never mind the cost. The cost has been huge. This has been an ongoing thing for many, many years. And it's a big reason why the RCSD and the RHA have been butting heads. We pull back, we watch, we call out, and it's a major issue. I feel like I can't support that unless it's complete transparency with the residents, and the residents want it. It's a call out to our residents for them. If it's not something that's supported by the residents, I am not on board. They need to know everything. That's it.
Thank you. Candidate Maynard, I'll reread the question. Over the years, the issue of Rossmoor Incorporation has come before the community many times. It has always been soundly rejected by the voters. The issue of governance is now being brought back again by a small group within Rossmoor. What is your position regarding Rossmoor Incorporation and the current attempts to expand the latent powers of the RCSD to include public safety without first placing an issue of such consequence before the community for a formal ballot measure vote?
Well, first, as far as I'm aware, we were only up for incorporation one vote, and you are absolutely right. I think that went down 60-something%. People did not want us to be an incorporated city. When you bring in latent powers or more local control, that's a different issue. And the board, when I was in 2011, was very vocal about we wanted to pursue latent powers, which I now use just the term local control, for police, because we were having really bad issues with the police timing. Animal control, because we had this tsunami event of coyotes killing like 147 animals, pets, our family members one year. And then the trash was just basically because when people negotiate trash contracts, usually little cities or communities get some funding, and we thought that would be great to have too. We were always transparent on that. I actually led the effort and was president 2 years in a row because of the progress we were making. We did have community events on that, so saying that there was zero transparency is actually not true. Now, when it comes to local control, I absolutely believe that when a governing body in Rossmoor, with Rossmoor residents, get to make decisions for Rossmoor, by Rossmoorians, if that's a word, that's impactful. I definitely believe that our police service, the fact is, we only have one person every now and then. I could tell you in the last 2 years, our sheriff's service has gone down. I want to work on making that better, whether it's through LAFCO, whether it's working with our supervisor, but bottom line, I am a proponent of local control. The more decisions Rossmoor people can make, instead of people in the county who don't even really understand us, to me that's a huge win for the people of Rossmoor and helps preserve our way of life.
Thank you. Candidate Churchill, again, the same question for you. I'll read it again. Over the years, the issue of Rossmoor Incorporation has come before the community. It has always been soundly rejected by the voters. The issue of governance is now being brought back again by a small group within Rossmoor. What is your position regarding Rossmoor Incorporation and the current attempts to expand the latent powers of the RCSD to include public safety without first placing this issue of such consequence before the community for a formal ballot measure vote?
First of all, it is not possible to answer that question in the time that you have provided.
Agreed.
It's impossible. This is an extremely complicated issue. Go to Voter's Edge. I've written a paper on it that is probably way too long and it'll put you to sleep, but it will explain exactly why you're not going to be incorporated. There's no money. You are a residential neighborhood. You do not generate any revenue coming in except your property taxes. Do you know where your property taxes go? State of California and to the county. And the county decides how much they're going to spend, how much they're going to give your district to provide services. You get property taxes to pay for your park maintenance and other things. Why would the county give you money for animal control? They have their own animal control. Why would they give you money to fund police services when they have the sheriff's department? They're not going to want to do that. If you want to be incorporated, what you're really saying is, I want to become a municipality. I want to be a city. Then you have to ask yourself some questions. Do the residents need or want more powers to be exercised on their behalf? The board needs to go to you, the community, and say, what powers do you want us to exercise? The board should not be saying, I think we should have animal control. I think we should have police powers. No, this is your community. You tell us what you are not getting and what's wrong with it. Let me tell you, I walked around the neighborhood. Here are the three things, the most important things that are being requested. Child safety and traffic near the schools. Your board should act as a liaison to fix that problem. I've got an idea that can do that. Parking problems adjacent to Montecito. Your board needs to put together stakeholders to address all the people that are impacted by those parking problems. Lack of patrols by your sheriff's department and a 911 response that takes 45 minutes. That is not appropriate. We need, the board, hopefully I will get on it, needs to act as a liaison and call these agencies together and say, what the heck are you doing? Okay? Read that. Read that.
This next question, we'll be starting with candidate Maynard, uses the acronym RHA, Rossmoor Homeowners Association, and RCSD, which is the board that you're running for. The RHA and the RCSD both agree that clear communication is paramount in serving our community. And when things go awry, it is the residents who suffer. Director DeMarco stated it best when he said, the district probably could do a better job communicating with our community. As a director and Rossmoor resident, how will you help the district to improve both its communication and public notice to the community? Director Marco, or candidate Maynard.
Thank you. I haven't been on this board for a year and a half. I don't know if things have changed in this matter where we didn't, but I could tell you that there are rules and procedures, and I expect and demand that this board follow those. When you have a meeting on a Tuesday, you have to have it posted by a Thursday, whatever those rules are, you need to have them posted. So that's the basics, I call that blocking and tackling. So also, being a government agency, communication's a little different than being a volunteer group and how you get to communicate. But bottom line is, need to figure out how to let people know. We do have a Facebook account, I think we have. I don't know how sophisticated it is. But as long as you're posting, not violating any Brown Act, communicating, having the liaisons with school district board people, schools, with RHA, with other groups that are within Rossmoor, and you're just communicating and you're telling people here's what's going on. To be honest, I didn't know we had a major communication breakdown.
Thank you. Candidate Churchill, I'll read the question again. The RHA and the RCSD both agree that clear communication is paramount in serving our community, and when things go awry, it is the residents who suffer. Director DeMarco stated it best when he said the district probably could do a better job communicating with our community. As a director and Rossmoor resident, how will you help the district to improve both its communication and public notice to the community?
Having served on the city council, I am very familiar what needs to be done to provide public notice and opportunity to be heard on critical issues. First of all, there is the Brown Act, and that requires that notice be posted. That's very minimal notice. That's what you see posted over on the tennis courts that says, by the way, there's going to be a hearing on this day. But what the community members actually need to get and what should be posted is the staff report. That's written by your executive director. He's the one that gathers the facts, puts together the report, and makes recommendations to the board as to how they should act on a particular issue. These staff reports, if you had a larger staff, these staff reports would be very detailed. The community could read absolutely everything, come to the meeting, and participate actively in that discussion. When you have large issues, it's really important that the data is gathered by the staff from professionals. For example, on traffic issues, you need to hire a traffic engineer that knows what they're talking about. You can't just have board members going around talking to the school district and say, I think we should put a bus here, okay? Educational forums, it's absolutely critical that your executive director sets up community forums where they bring in experts and the members of the community can come in and sit and speak to that expert, look at the maps, look at charts, look at the data, and ask those experts questions. Especially true if you're going to look at local control. After you get these forums done, the board brings that information back. They have a discussion among the board members with the public being able to ask questions. Then what you should be doing is have a formal motion and a second by somebody that sits on the board that spells out exactly what authority you're giving your board members. Once that is voted on, and you need 3 people to vote out of your 5 to pass that motion, that becomes a written resolution. And that is the document you show people that says, I have the power to make these decisions. I don't see that happening here. That's what I would recommend.
Candidate Shea. The RHA and the RCSD both agree that clear communication is paramount in serving our community. And when things go awry, it is the residents who suffer. Director DeMarco stated it best when he said the district probably could do a better job communicating with our community. As a director and Rossmoor resident, how will you help the district to improve both its communication and public notice to the community?
I'd like to say that a lot of the things that are being said are actually being done or have been done. If you've attended any meetings or board meetings or school board meetings, you would know that. I know that because I do. I actually am the school district liaison to the community. It's not something I want to become. That's what I do. That being said, there's always, as was said, ways to improve and get communication better. There's multiple organizations that I work with, including law enforcement and the school district, to work to improve the traffic and the safety in and around our schools. We do it every single day.
Thank you.
The next question speaks to the issue of diversity and inclusion. We will start with candidate Churchill. Would you speak to the issues of diversity and inclusion and give an example of how your plan to represent the many different needs and interests in our community would be forthcoming?
I don't see a problem with diversity and inclusion in this community. Everybody I have met and spoke with on the street has been thoughtful, considerate, helpful, willing to assist anyone. I don't see bias in this community. I think we have a professional, educated community that understands that we have to get along as a village. We prosper by helping one another. I would be willing to consider anything, any suggestion that somebody else has, if they've spotted some sort of diversity problem or exclusion in this neighborhood, but I just haven't seen it, and nobody's told me that that's a problem that they faced within Rossmoor.
Thank you. Candidate Shea, I'll reread the question. would you speak to the issues of diversity and inclusion and give an example how you plan to represent the many different needs and interests in our community?
Sure. I think it's wonderful if you don't see that there's an issue with diversity in our neighborhood. That speaks volumes for us. We totally reach out and try and be inclusive as much as we possibly can. That being said, the reality of it is it's out there. And if you're not feeling it, it's probably because you're not in that minority group. That's just the facts. An example would be, I was here working our last event, and I was here working with a couple of high school volunteers of color, and it was pointed out to me by this person that she felt very awkward, to say the least, that she was the only person of color that she could see within our park. So making somebody feel isolated in that way, it can be hurtful, but we can do something about that, and we can be more inviting and make sure that we're reaching out to anybody that we can and letting them know, reassuring them, this is a great place. And I'll tell you, by the time she left by the end of the day, she was back the next weekend. So it was great. In a positive way, it turned out. So I would just like to say that I try to reach that olive branch out to anybody that I can, and bringing in and making sure that we're inclusive for everybody.
Thank you. Candidate Maynard, the same question to you. Would you speak to the issues of diversity and inclusion and give an example of how you plan to represent the many different needs and interests in our community?
I kind of echo what Mrs. Chamberlain states, is our demographic, I describe it as one way, affluent. We live in a affluent group, community with successful professionals. We also have within our community blue collar who have trades. A lot of them actually own the business with their trade, but in general, we have a tremendous community. I believe it is very inclusive. When you talk to me personally about what I bring to the table, I would say it all starts with love. I have never denied my Christian beliefs. I believe it always starts with love. And if we all try to love each other as we love ourselves from the Bible, I think that makes for a better place. So how I address it personally is through my faith and through just being a lover of people, which I am. But again, I echo the fact that I think we are a very inclusive, affluent community. I feel bad that someone felt bad at an event because they didn't see a lot of, their color, their race. But we're pretty homogenized here. We have a certain demographic, and I've never experienced any negative issues with diversity or inclusion within this community, within the events that I attend, because there's no place for that. If you, again, love one another, I think that solves everything.
Thank you.
This will be our last question for the evening, and we'll be starting with candidate Shea. How do you plan to engage more of the community in the board's decision-making process?
I think I can bring a lot to this board in building bridges to our community. Those are bridges that I have built myself to different organizations in our area, from the city to the law enforcement to the school district. These are all things that I'm super tightly connected to, and I think I can bring my diverse connections that I have in the area, as well as businesses, to the board and execute things and more in a timely manner, because there's things that get stuck in this board and they're there for years. Issues that we've been dealing with in the past. And I feel like I could just be the person that is the connector and the bridge builder and executing things, getting things done in a timely manner.
Thank you. Candidate Maynard, how do you plan to engage more of the community in the board's decision-making process?
I've always been very transparent. I have my network of friends. I always like to make new friends. So when reelected to this, I probably will have an official coffee hour, some kind of thing that asks me any question. You can go back and look at YouTube over 9.5 years and see my conduct. I've always been transparent. So I want to maintain that, but I'm also always ready to make new friends. I'm always willing to talk to people. The one thing that I find is most people don't really listen. They're always thinking about what they're going to say to the person they're talking. So I actually take on what I call active listening, where I really want to understand. So to me, communication is not trying to be understood, but trying to understand. And so that's what I'm putting out there is I will make some kind of official before meeting group. If anyone wants to go and have coffee on a specific day, you'll be able to find me and you can ask me anything and you'll get a truthful answer.
Thank you. Candidate Churchill, how do you plan to engage more of the community in the board's decision-making process?
I would like to promise you that you will always see me behaving with a professional demeanor. I will maintain a calm. I will not be a cheerleader with pom-poms. I will listen carefully to what you tell me, and I will gather facts. I will do research, and I will not engage in political activities that will embarrass you. I have worked with state, county, and federal officials putting together every type of conceivable plan you can imagine, having to do with running a city. Now, your little board here focuses on parks and recreation and trash and street sweeping, but that's only one part of who the community is. There are other stakeholders. You need to have somebody that can liaison with the county, with the sheriff's office to get your 911 calls from 45 minutes down to like 5. You need more patrol cars in the community because people are complaining that their catalytic converters are being stolen and things are taken from their cars in front of their house. You have parents that have told me they make call after call after call to the sheriff's department and the highway patrol to report safety problems with traffic around their schools. I've studied that. I have a chart here. You're not going to want to see it, but I got a chart. I have an idea. And if given the opportunity, I would like to act as the person on the board who puts together the proper parties and sits them down and say, okay, let's put our head together and let's resolve these issues. That's what I think I can bring to your board.
Thank you.
We've now come to the concluding portion of the evening. On behalf of the RHA, I'd like to thank the three of you and all the candidates who took the time to come to this community and to let us get to know you a little bit better, in some cases reacquaint. We're going to start with candidate Maynard. You have 2 minutes to say your concluding remarks.
Okay. Thanks for having me tonight, and thanks for everyone in attendance here. As mentioned, I have more experience and more leadership specific to Rossmoor and specific to the RCSD than any candidate that's currently running. I would like to serve again. I've had tremendous success for this community. I would like to continue that. As mentioned, I believe that the board has suffered a little bit without me being on it, and I think there's some leadership that I think I can help out with. The fact that there was a budget approved 3-2 tells me that we need leadership. We need people who can build consensus. We need people like myself who has a CEO background, who knows how to inspire, who knows how to build organizations, knows how to equip. I pretty much have gone through many tasks and obstacles being on this board before. I get to hit the desk running fast because I actually understand what we are and what we're not. I understand how to work well with others. I've worked with multiple supervisors in helping our woes, and I want to get right back on there because frankly, our speeds are too fast. People might not realize this, but there's a section in Rossmoor that's actually a faster speed limit than Los Alamitos Boulevard, and that needs to be fixed. We need to address these new e-bikes with kids riding along crazy. I'm scared to death that we're going to hear in the news that a kid died. So I want to come in here. I want to help lead. I want to help be a statesman. I want to build consensus, and I want to take a fractured board, and I want to build that board into a more successful board and get things done for you, for the people who live here, and I want to protect and preserve the Rossmoor life. That's what I'm about. I hope you guys all vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Churchill, 2 minutes.
First of all, I want to just tell you a little bit of a story. I visited the San Juan Islands and a special little island called Lopez Island. And I'm visiting the island and I'm driving the car around and people are waving at me. I don't know who they are, but they have funny little ways they wave. Some of them will go one finger from the steering wheel, some will go two, some will go that, like that. And I started asking in the community, what are they doing? And they said, don't you know, Lopez Island is the friendly island. We wave to everybody. It doesn't matter that we don't know them, we should know them, and that's why we wave to them. That's how I feel about Rossmoor. You have an oasis here. You have a lovely community that people really want to be a part of. And when I moved into it, and we're in this little COVID isolation, I'm doing research on it. First thing I did was join the Homeowners Association. I think that's really important, and I would like to see everybody that owns a house in Rossmoor to be part of that association. I think it benefits everybody. They bring people together, but they do it in coordination with your homeowner, with your service district, because that's where the place is where the association occurs. So they need to be a team. I think it's really important for the board to work cooperatively, and I don't like seeing hostility among board members. We do not need any political activities by any board member. This is a nonpartisan office, and it's appropriate to do that as a member. I want to promote community participation and transparency in all governmental activities. I want to expand the Homeowners Association. And I will work to provide parks and recreational services to a broad range of residents. That includes families, pets, walkers, joggers, tennis, and pickleball players. And yes, pickleball looks kind of fun, but I'm very clumsy, so you probably won't see me on the court. So I hope you'll take a chance to investigate my credentials, and you'll think about voting for me, because I would love to be part of your board. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shea.
Thank you. I would like to ask for you to take a look at the diversity up on this board right now, and the board, how it's been in the past. And that's all I'll say about that. I'd like to thank the RHA for hosting and showing such a continual support for these elections. This is a lot of work and expense, and you are greatly appreciated. Thank you to all the volunteers who assisted here as well. Thank you to our candidates who are participating here with us tonight, Carol and Michael, and even Director Rips, who could not be with us this evening. And thank you to the Rossmoor residents, mostly. Thank you for coming here and watching, here in person and out there on the airwaves. I would like for you just to review and think about all of us very carefully and what we offer this community as individuals. Who has done what exactly? What efforts and actions have we taken? When was that done? Who benefited? Was that shared here tonight? When was that done? Was that done in the past couple of years? I was asking the community questions as we were sent out. How many RCSD meetings did you attend in the past 12 months? I'd like to say I was the only one that attended 9 times. No one else attended up here once. The classic formula for getting misinformation is having people telling you things third party. I'm telling you firsthand. I am the person, is the boots on the ground, community involvement. I hope you vote for me.
Thank you all, and I'll turn it back over to our host, Marian Last.
Thank you. Oh, wow, what a wonderful evening it has been. I hope that we've all enjoyed it and gained a lot of information and insight as to the candidates who will impact the direction of Rossmoor in the future. But at this time, I would like to thank Art Remne, President of the Rossmoor Homeowners Association, for his leadership throughout this process, along with Frank and Gary and Jody. We all served in putting together all the details you saw tonight, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've made it a seamless process from my perspective. Others may see it differently, but I respectfully disagree. And we want to thank everyone who came out this afternoon for the Farmers Market, which is held every Thursday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. They're here for us. We need to support them too. And we'd like you to please help support local businesses. I'd like to mention some upcoming events. The most important, ballots will be mailed out in a couple of weeks. Please respond regardless of your position. We need to get out there and make our voices heard. The American Red Cross will be conducting the next blood drive on Wednesday, October 19th. They do that every third Wednesday of the month. RCSD's next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October the 11th. RHA's next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October the 18th. And Rossmoor's next Get Shredded quarterly event will be October 29th from 8 to noon here at Rush Park. It's the most seamless way of just driving through and having everyone unload your truck or whatever, or trunk, and you don't have to get out of your car. We all take care of that for you, or not us, but the shredding company. And we want to thank the community for your support of the Rossmoor Homeowners Association. Without our members and our major sponsors, Southland Credit Union and Kelly Laird and Associates Realty, we could not do what we do, like put on the Candidates Town Forum, celebrate the holidays, paint your curbs, host the annual graduation parade. Membership is open to anyone, even if you don't live in Rossmoor. Just go to rrossmoor.com, join to sign up. We thank you for your support, and we wish you a good evening.